most teens, learning to drive is a rite of passage, something we often take for granted. But for older teens in foster care, the barriers can be tremendous. Just think about it. There's driver's ed, permits and licensing costs, and then the cost of insurance. In fact, Treehouse, which serves foster youth in Washington State, estimates 1 in 5 youth in foster care end up homeless within a year of aging out of the system, in part because of transportation needs. And here to share more is someone who knows all too well how hard it is, Patrick Nickell, licensing coordinator for Treehouse's new Driver's Assistance Program. Thank you for coming. I am so excited about this program. You were both in foster care starting at age 5 and then found yourself homeless at 17.
Yeah.
What were your barriers to transportation?
It was just really, really difficult. You're having to figure out everything. You're being taken care of one day and then bam, you're an adult responsible for everything the next. So figuring it all out, having the money to do it, it's tough.
And you were never able to go to driver's ed?
Nope.
And all these things we think
Yeah, it was
should happen.
liability reasons, wasn't allowed to get behind the wheel of a car.
So at 17, you had your only way of transportation would have been public transportation.
Yeah, and that's very cumbersome. Schedules, having to be at a place at a certain time, it's difficult to coordinate that. And if you're somewhere outside of the city, it's even tougher.
Right. So tell me more then about overall the barriers that foster kids face when it comes to getting a driver's license, things that we might not think about.
Sure. So there's a lot of drive time required by the state, and that's difficult for them to get.
I think we talked about that, 40 hours?
Yeah, 40 daytime, 10 nighttime, and that can be really tough if they don't have someone to do that with them. If they're in a group home, there's not someone that can get behind the wheel with them and put in all that practice time that they're required to have.
And then there's the permit costs, license costs?
Yeah, there's a lot of fees involved, and for someone that age, we scoff at $85. We can make it happen.
Right.
That's a lot to them.
Absolutely. And then I think about just what it took getting my 3 kids driving. We didn't even talk about driver's ed.
Oh yeah.
Which can be $600.
Oh yeah, some of the courses run upwards to $700, and that doesn't include the testing fees for the state as well.
And when we this isn't just one of those kind of unnecessary or not vital issues. I mean, statistically, it's shown that not having access to a license can hurt kids.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if you're trying to take the city bus at 4 a.m. to get to a job. Maybe it takes 2 hours to get to work, and we all have a hard enough time getting to work on ourselves, and we have a vehicle. Can you imagine having to do that with the bus? The employer isn't sympathetic to that, and they find themselves without a job, without a place to live. It's this very, very tough cycle.
I would think too psychologically. I mean, there's this, here, especially in America, we think at 15 I'll get my driver's permit. At 16 I'll get my license, and then I'll be able to drive. At least I can borrow my parents' car. And there has to be some real impacts psychologically that when you can't do that.
Well, it's this rite of passage that so many people take for granted, and the tremendous freedom you have when you have a license and you're behind the wheel of a vehicle. The world is yours.
Right.
And as a foster kid, I sat back and had to watch that happen for all my classmates, and you're bummed it's not happening for you, and it just is another thing that makes you feel different in a bad way.
Right. Set apart.
Yeah.
So I love this driver's assistance program. Tell me about it.
So it's for kids in foster care, extended foster care, or even kids in tribal jurisdiction, ages 15 to 21, and we'll help them with their driver's license or state ID, driver's ed, learner's permit, and then also help them. The big piece we're excited about is their auto insurance.
Wow, because that can be that you can get everything else, and then all of a sudden you're faced with the idea I can't even pay liability.
And that's crazy expensive for teenage drivers. Right. And I had a caregiver cry happy tears. She's like, the $225 you're able to put back in makes a big impact in our household budget.
What are you seeing as far as when kids are realizing this program's out there? What are you hearing from them?
Oh, they're chomping at the bit. They want it. They want it now. I had a poor kid call me from the dealership. He's like, I just got a car. I need insurance. I'm like, oh, kiddo, this isn't how it works. You got to apply. And I'm broken heart for him. But I'm like, let's get you taken care of as soon as possible. So.
Right. Just the idea that they know that the program is there, and that there's money in it that will help them pay. Like you said, the cost for a license, even the $50 or $85 is such a barrier. And you think, I've got to figure out how I'm going to live, especially being 17 and homeless at that time, and then to have to come up with that. So how can we help?
So if you go to our website, treehouseforkids.org,
Right.
there's a button that says Take Action. There's a ton of stuff that people can do. They can volunteer, they can donate money, they can host events.
Right.
There's just whatever works for them, and there's just a lot of ways for them to get involved.
And you were saying that one piece that you're looking at is potentially having people help with those driving hours.
Sure.
As you set up the program, because
Yeah.
that really takes a lot of time. You think about how do you find volunteers that are willing to go out with these kids and patiently, right?
Sure, it's a big barrier for the kids that are in group homes or have a caregiver or foster parent that isn't able to dedicate that time. So we're still trying to figure out how we can help with that, but it is a big barrier.
How did you finally get to license point for yourself?
Well, I actually had to do it out of state because I was in California and they wouldn't allow you to have a license if you were in care. So when I moved out of state, I did it. I had to like beg a coworker to let me borrow her car to drive an hour away. It was this chain of really difficult events just to get my license.
That highlights how difficult it is and how you think about, oh, you know, it's just a license. It's not just a license.
No, it's so much more. It's a sense of independence and agency, and you need it to be an adult. So.
What a fantastic program. It must be so fun knowing what you had to go through to see these kids just take a little bit of that hardship away.
Yeah, it feels very good to be able to give back and to be able to have them not experience that difficulty because I know how cruddy it is.
Right, I love that, how cruddy it is. Thank you so much,
You're
Patrick.
welcome.
If you're interested in helping foster kids get their driving hours or any other volunteer opportunities at Treehouse, we've got the information on our website and you won't regret getting involved. All right, more New Day after this.